Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beat 'em to the Punch. I'm Aaron, this is Jay, and today is August 1st. Last night was UFC Vegas 33, Sean Strickland versus Uriah Hall. And today we're going to be talking about that a little bit, and we're also going to go back to last weekend when TJ Dillashaw fought Cory the Sandman Sandhagen. So we're going to open up with that. We're going to talk about that banger in a little bit. And Jason, just right off the bat, what were your thoughts on TJ Dillashaw versus Cory Sandhagen?
I thought it was a really good fight. I thought TJ looked really good coming off of his 2-year suspension from using EPO, right?
Yeah.
And like that was kind of like the story going in. It was going to be like, oh, how does he look now after his 2-year layoff? How does he look when he's not on steroids and stuff like that? And dude, he is really tough. Like, that was a close fight. TJ won it. A lot of people think Sandhagen won. I'm not mad either way. I think TJ took more damage throughout the fight, but like, oh my God, he can take a hit, man. Like, Sandhagen hit him with some crazy flying knees. He hit him with some huge punches. Like, did you see that cut on his eye after the fight?
Yeah,
too?
crazy.
Yeah.
I think, like, we forget about that too. Like when you haven't seen a guy fight in like 2 years, you forget just how freaking durable TJ Dillashaw is, man. Like that knee he got hit with in the first round, that's the knee that knocked out Frankie Edgar. Like one touch knocked him out. Like standing up, knockout.
Yeah.
And it didn't even, TJ was like, he wasn't even really wobbled by that. He was wobbled once and he got knocked down once in the fight, but he got hit so many times and like he's got a hell of a chin.
Yeah, crazy chin, man. I was super impressed. What do you think about the decision, though? Do you think TJ had the win, or did you think it should have gone the other way?
Let me just first say, I'm not upset at it. I'm not upset with the decision. I really think it could have gone either way. I can see both guys' bets. With that being said, I did have Sandhagen winning. I had Dillashaw taking the first round, Sandhagen taking the second round. The third round was really close. I was going back and forth on that. I had Dillashaw taking the third, Sandhagen taking the fourth, and then in the fifth round, I had Sandhagen winning the fight. So the reffing all three judges had different scores. So one of the judges scored it the same as me. Another judge scored it, so they had Dillashaw the first, Sandhagen the second, Dillashaw the third, Sandhagen the fourth, and then Dillashaw winning the fifth. And then another judge actually had they had that really close third round going to Dillashaw. So, and then also the fifth. So yeah, there's a lot of controversy with this fight, but I think we leave knowing both guys they're killers, man, and both guys are going to be contenders for like definitely the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll probably see that fight. They'll probably see them fight again at some point. Maybe if Dillashaw wins the belt and Sandhagen wins another fight. Because, okay, so Dillashaw is fighting the winner of Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling for the belt.
We can't say that for sure, but we were speculating before this podcast about it. And Dillashaw, obviously, he got cut over the eye. He had that knee injury during the fight, so he got hit a lot in the head. So he's got probably about a 6-month layoff. I think did he have to have surgery on the knee?
I think so, yeah.
So there's surgery on the knee, and then also you got to let the eyebrow heal up. So I think he's got about a 6-month layoff, and then we probably have Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan in October. So TJ's probably going to be back by like January, so I think it lines up pretty well, honestly.
The timing works out, yeah. And I feel like, I can't remember exactly if Dana said that, but I'm pretty sure TJ's going back to a belt fight pretty much right away.
Do you think he deserves it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Hell yeah. No, me too. He had the belt before. He never lost that belt. He lost his last fight, but he went down in a weight class, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he technically never lost that belt, so I think he definitely deserves to fight for it right away. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. And do you think that fight was like potentially a fight of the year candidate?
Could be in there. There's been so many good fights this year. I really can't say.
Yeah.
Maybe for that weight class. I don't know if they do it that way. Like, but is it just out of all the fights, one of them wins fight of the year?
Out of all of them, yeah. So.
Honestly, yeah, that was a really good fight. Dillashaw, I thought, like, I don't know how he didn't get knocked out, and like based off the, like, if you're gonna look at it based off who took more damage, like Dillashaw definitely took more damage throughout the fight. Like, I'm pretty sure Cory was fine after.
Yeah.
But based off just like his takedowns and I guess the control time, that's ultimately what got him the win, and I think that makes sense.
Yeah. No, like I said, I'm not mad at it. He had a lot of clinch control time. He had a lot of ground control time. And I mean, he looked really good in his striking as well. I thought he did look maybe a bit of a beat off with his timing. Just TJ in the past, his head movement is so phenomenal, and it looked good in that fight too. But I think 2-year layoff, I thought his head movement was a little bit off. But I mean, with that being said, like in the first round, he got his knee cranked like a mofo. So like. I think that knee was a little bit jacked up for the fight. His mobility was a little bit compromised. You wouldn't know it if you didn't see his knee get messed up in the first round and hear his corner. But I think his mobility was a little bit compromised after that.
Well, even like the cut on his eye, that's something that happened in training, right? And it was still like, it wasn't even like healed for a long time, and he said going into the fight, like, it's been 2 years and he just wanted to fight so bad. Like, he went into that fight with some injuries, and that's why that cut got opened up so badly. So I respect the hell out of him for that. I really like TJ.
What's weird about that though is, I don't know if you saw the pictures for his cut in training, but the cut was actually, it was like over the eye, it was along the eyebrow, and the cut during the fight was like down.
It was over and down.
Was it down as well?
Yeah, it was like a cross almost.
Like, yeah, and Cruz was talking about it during the fight too. Cruz or Bisping, I'm not sure, but like when it's down, the blood just flows directly into your eyeball, and it's going right into his eyeball, and he's like wiping it during the round. Yeah. So and he said after too, he's like, yeah, I couldn't even see out of that eye. So I mean, that's pretty impressive for him to have fought through that along with everything else.
Happened in like the second round.
Yeah.
And then he went on to win it by decision after the fifth round. So he's pretty much fighting the whole fight and like just with blood pouring into his eye. You could see him wiping it out the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Like, that would suck so much.
No, really impressed with what we saw from TJ. Obviously, you get that. And honestly, really impressed with what we saw from Cory too. I mean, part of the narrative for me was like coming into this fight, Cory hasn't actually gone 5 rounds before, right? If you think about his last 2 fights, I mean, he had that crazy knee knockout on Frankie Edgar, and then he had that spinning kick knockout on Marlon Moraes, both in main events, but he hasn't actually gone the distance. So we know, going into this, we knew TJ could go the distance. He's that guy. He's super durable, and he's been there before in those big fights, but we didn't really know that for Cory. And I mean, he's such an explosive, fast fighter. Like, going in, I was honestly, I'm not going to say worried, but I was curious to see how he'd fare in those later rounds. And I mean, even against a guy like Dillashaw, he looked phenomenal, and there's a fair argument that he did win that fight. So, yeah, really impressed with both guys.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So what do you think is next for Cory? You said Dillashaw probably gets the next title shot, which I 100% agree with you, but where do you think Cory goes from here?
Well, like, it was a really close fight. I think he's honestly not far off from a title shot still. If he could win another 1 or 2 against the top ranked guys. Like, he's probably, do you know where he's ranked now?
So going into this fight, obviously we had Aljamain with the belt. We had Petr Yan as #1 contender. And then we had Cory Sandhagen ranked 3rd, followed by Rob Font, and then I believe it's Cody Garbrandt at number 5. So following the fight, TJ just slots right into Cory Sandhagen's spot at number 2, and they all move back. So now Cory's at number 4.
Okay. Honestly, what makes the most sense to me is TJ obviously fights the winner of Aljamain and Petr, and I think Cory could fight the loser.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Or maybe even Rob Font. He just beat Cody. He could fight either Cody or Font, to be honest. A Garbrandt fight might be cool.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
That makes sense to me. And honestly, I mean, that freaking weight class is so stacked. I'd be happy to see him fight like any of those guys. But Yeah, I mean it's interesting if he fights the loser of that title fight, because his last loss prior to this was actually against Aljo in like a first round submission by Aljamain Sterling. But I feel like we're gonna get that Rob Font fight next probably.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right? Like Rob Font was calling for a title shot, and I mean like he dominated Cody Garbrandt so much. If this division wasn't so stacked, he's probably getting it after those guys. But yeah, no, I want to see Cory against Rob Font.
Yeah,
That's my pick.
I know Cory was saying he wanted to get the Aljo fight back because I guess he lost that one in a submission. And that's his, other than TJ, that was the only loss on his record, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. Recently, yeah.
Yeah, recently anyway. I haven't even looked at his record, but he was saying that anyway, so he wants to get that one back, and that would be a good fight.
Yeah.
I think he'd beat him again, to be honest, if it wasn't, like, I guess it ended up on the ground and he got submitted, but...
You think Aljamain beats him?
No, Sandhagen, man. I think Sandhagen's one of the best in that division, to be honest.
I think so, too. I mean, if you can hang in there with TJ Dillashaw, and he looked... I mean, obviously TJ went through a lot that fight, but he looked in peak form, and Cory was right in that fight, so... Do you think the bantamweight division is the most stacked division in the UFC?
It's probably up there, dude. I've always thought the lightweight division was the most stacked. Like, for some reason, just the top guys in the lightweight division seem like before, if you look at, like, Khabib, Gaethje, Poirier,
Yeah.
like, that's probably still, in my opinion, the most stacked division, but this one's close. It's close.
It's, yeah. I still say the lightweight is, too. But, I mean, this bantamweight division is making, like, a really close contest, right? Because we were talking about it before, we've got Merab versus Marias coming up, and I think Merab, he's sitting at number 10, but I think he's like, oh man, I think he's really underrated. I think this is going to be his coming out party against Marlon Marias, and I think that's going to push him into being another contender in this division. But I mean, like you said, there's a little bit of a drop off after Rob Font at number 4, because I think Cody's probably going down to 125, right. And then it's Aldo. Aldo's still super game, and Pedro Munoz. But I mean, I still think I agree with you. I still think that lightweight division is the best. I mean, obviously, it was Poirier. McGregor's slotted all the way down to number 9. Makhachev's coming up.
It's not even it's not even just the top 5, man. It's like literally the top 10 to 15 guys in that division are all like elite.
Yeah. So you're on lightweight is the best division in the UFC.
Yeah.
You feel comfortable making that statement?
100%, dude.
All right. I'm not mad at that. And now let's move on to Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland. So what are your initial thoughts following this fight, Jason?
It was a good fight, man. Sean Strickland looked really good. I guess he just did everything he needed to do to win that fight. Uriah Hall was... I was not impressed with him at all, to be honest. I know he's getting old, and I don't know. I wasn't really that impressed.
Yeah, tough night in the office for Uriah Hall. Yeah. That's a shitty way to celebrate your birthday.
Oh, that was on his birthday?
That was literally on his birthday, turning 37, yeah.
Got his ass whooped on his birthday.
Oh, yeah, I feel bad for the guy, man. Like, I felt like that was his chance to get up into a spot where he can maybe have, like... he could be 2 fights out of the title. And I mean, literally going into this, like, they were asking him, they were like, who do you think, if you could beat Sean Strickland, like, who do you want to fight? And he's like, man, I'm just thinking about Izzy right now. I know I'm probably, even with a win, I'm a few fights out, but like, I just think me and Izzy is such a good matchup. And then for him to get pieced up against Sean Strickland like that at 37, not looking good for that in the future, if we're being totally honest here.
No, he's not going to fight Izzy, man. He's not going to fight. I don't think he's going to make it to that belt fight.
Yeah, but I mean, Sean Strickland too. Like, we don't want to take any credit away from him by shitting on Uriah Hall, right? He looked really good. He's a bit of a weird fighter. He kind of just stands up and strikes. He has a good ground game too. Bisping was saying, like, unsung ground game, and like, he took it to Uriah Hall on the ground as well. But he's definitely an interesting matchup for a lot of guys in the UFC.
Yeah.
Who would you like to see him fight?
So he just beat Uriah Hall, who was 8th. I don't know, another guy around that position. I was thinking, I know you said Shabazian. I was thinking either him, maybe Kevin Holland. I think that would be a really interesting matchup.
That would be fun for sure.
And those guys would be talking to each other the whole time. Like that would be an interesting fight.
Yeah, actually, that is a really good fight. I feel like if I'm Sean Strickland, probably not trying to go all the way back to number 14 to fight Holland, even though that's a dream fight, honestly.
Yeah.
Both of those guys are just strikers. I was thinking, like you said, Shabazian or else Hermansson. So Shabazian's at number 10, Hermansson's at number 7, and presumably after beating Uriah Hall, who was slotted number 8, I think we should see Sean Strickland at number 8. So him versus number 7, that's a good matchup for him. I think it would be interesting. He has a ground game. Obviously, Hermansson is he's like a messy ground and pound striker after what he did to Shabazian. So I think, but I mean, with that being said too, the Shabazian fight is such a fun one, man. I feel like that would be such a sick fight, but also a really tough fight for Shabazian. And I mean, if I'm the UFC, I'm probably giving Shabazian like a lower ranked guy. Maybe just so he can get a win, get his confidence back a little bit, because he's 23, right? So they probably want to just try to keep building him a little bit, and they threw him into the mix a little bit fast with guys like Brunson and Hermansson.
Yeah, dude, his fight with Hermansson was really close, though, wasn't it?
The first round, he dominated on the feet, and then in the second and third, Hermansson got him to the ground, and he kind of took it to him because, I mean, Shabazian's ground game just isn't really there, and Hermansson's ground and pound work he just squished him pretty much in the second rounds.
Okay, yeah. So Shabazian, I thought he looked really good in that fight, to be honest. So, yeah, I see what you're saying about not pumping him up too fast, letting him get his confidence, letting him get his skill set a little bit more developed before he gets up into those top ranked guys. So, yeah, him against Strickland would be a good fight. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that matchup at all. It would be interesting. Good striking battle, probably.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see that. I don't think we will see it. What about Uriah Hall? Where do you see Uriah Hall going?
Dude, I don't know, because he was literally only talking about, like, I'm going to fight Izzy. I'm going to get that title shot. That's what he was saying before the fight, and then he lost now. So I don't know if he retires or if he just fights mid to low ranked guys.
He said he'll be back.
Yeah, he did say that?
Yeah, I'm not going to count him out yet. The thing is with Uriah Hall, too, like, we've seen some really good performances, and then we've just seen some, like, really disappointing performances, like last night. I feel like a guy like Kevin Holland would be really fun to see. But, I mean, with that being said, if we see another performance like last night, it's not going to be fun. It's obviously that's another really tough fight for Uriah Hall because it's not like he really has all that much on the ground, and Kevin Holland is a pure striker. Like he's not taking that fight to the ground. No. So, and yeah, it's tough. Uriah Hall doesn't get me that excited either. Like, no, honestly, I don't even care who he fights. Like, I'll watch it. I'm not gonna be like, yo, Uriah Hall's fighting tonight. Like, we got to see that fight. Like, I don't know. You think he's kind of done now? I was not impressed with that fight last night. He's not done. He's still going to be ranked top 15, right? Probably down to 11 or 12. But I see what you're saying. Like, I feel like the narrative throughout Uriah Hall's career has kind of been his, like, mental game. So he's come into some fights and just looked so good. Like, obviously, he was kind of, like, coming out of The Ultimate Fighter. They were like, this is the dude. This guy's going to come in and take over. And he's struggled since then. Obviously, he beat Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman in his last fight. And, I mean, not to take those away, but, I mean, he got it done against Anderson Silva, but you can argue he was losing the first 2 rounds in that fight, and then he got the finish. And then, obviously, you guys know what happened with him and Chris Weidman. He checked that kick. Brutally broke Chris Weidman's leg. So, I mean, it's a bit of a tough go for Uriah Hall now. Got to feel for the guy a little bit.
Yeah, I do feel a bit bad for him, to be honest, but not that bad. So whatever. Shit happens, man. It's the fight game. Yeah. It's the way it goes.
Man, some of the stuff Sean Strickland was saying, like, during the presser before and, like, after and stuff, he was saying, like, before he was saying, like, how soft kids are these days. He's like, maybe we need another war or something. It's like, what?
He says some weird stuff.
Bro? Yeah.
Or that one video you showed me where he was like, I wish I could have, some guy tried to rob him and he...
Yeah, tell them the story for those of you who haven't heard.
Some guy, like, tries to rob Sean Strickland with a shotgun, and I guess Sean Strickland just punches him in the face, takes his gun, and he's like, there's people around, and this is what he says after. He's like, I really wanted to shoot that guy, but, there was just witnesses everywhere, and I didn't want to go to jail. So, and then he was just like... He said he would have really enjoyed shooting that guy in the head.
Who says that, man?
Yeah.
He's definitely right when he says he's like the last guy the UFC would want as a champ. Like,
yeah, if he's saying stuff like that, he's like, I really wanted to just kill that dude, but unfortunately there's too many witnesses.
That's so crazy, man. That's so crazy. Yeah. And after he's saying, he's like, yeah, I'm happy as long as I'm on the UFC mat, Like, if I wasn't doing this, I might be cooking meth in my basement or
he's
something.
Like, after the fight, he was like, yeah, if I wasn't fighting the UFC, I'd probably be cooking meth in a trailer. It's like, man, why would you say something like that?
Yeah, but I mean, he's a nice piece to have in the UFC. Like, he has like a fun, albeit psychopath personality.
Yeah, I like
but
it.
I mean, you definitely like Sean Strickland. I mean, you want to tune in for his press conferences to see what he's gonna say. And then also just in the fight, I mean, even if you're a casual, like, you will tune in and you're probably just gonna see him stand there and strike, right? So. Yeah, I mean, the future's actually looking pretty good for Sean Strickland. Yeah. I mean, prior to now, he's been on a bit of a run, but, like, even just a few years ago, he got in, like, a really bad car accident, and he was out for, like, 2 years from the car accident. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know that.
So, yeah, things have really changed up. And
I think he's on a 5-fight win streak.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, which is tied for, like, the second most in middleweight, too.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, Izzy's number one.
Nice.
I forget who he's tied with, but yeah, no. I mean, things are looking up for Sean Strickland, nice. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to him down the road.
Nice. So what's going on next weekend?
Next weekend, we've got a good one. We've got Ciryl Gane versus Derrick Lewis, and then we've got a few others on there. It's Aldo versus Munoz.
And then the Nunes fight got taken off that card, right?
Yeah, she got COVID.
Yeah, so Amanda Nunes got COVID and is no longer fighting next weekend, but...
That's a bummer, man.
It's a bit of a bummer. I think it's still a good card, though.
It's still a good card. People aren't talking about the Michael Chiesa-Vicente Luque fight either, and I actually think that's going to be a really good one. Chiesa's he's on like a 2 or 3 fight win streak now. Luque's looking really good. He's number 6, I believe. Chiesa's number 5.
Good matchup.
So, I mean, those guys are... The winner of that's probably, like, 1 fight out of a title shot. So, 1 or 2 fights, right? So, I mean, that's interesting. It's Tisha Torres and Angela Hill.
So, for sure we see the winner of Derrick Lewis and Ciryl Gane fighting Francis, right?
I mean, how can we not?
It has to happen, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of... I don't really understand the interim belt in this, to be honest, but like there has to be a unification fight or something, right? That's how it works.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, obviously, like the UFC was pumping Derrick Lewis versus Francis Ngannou for like a while, and then they just switched lanes, right? They were like, okay, we're actually going to do an interim title, even though we haven't done this in Francis's whole career. While he was just waiting on Stipe and DC and just mopping up the whole weight class. So they're like, okay, we don't really care about Stipe, even though technically he's still the number 1 contender. So we're just gonna do Derrick Lewis and Ciryl Gane now, and we're gonna throw an interim title in there.
Ridiculous. They kind of did Stipe dirty.
Oh, they did Stipe dirty, and they did Francis kind of dirty too, because he never got that interim title either. Yeah. So
I think Stipe is gonna leave and go to like ONE FC or something.
Yeah, he was talking about potential. He like commented on some ONE championship thing when they they posted on Instagram like, who should we sign next? And he put like one of those emojis, just like a wondering emoji. So.
Yeah, and I know he doesn't really get along with Dana White and all those like the matchmakers and whatnot.
No, and I mean I get it. I really like Stipe. He's like the most highly touted heavyweight of all time, right? He has the most title defenses, I think. But at the same time, like he kind of goes a long time without wanting to fight. He doesn't really talk that much. He doesn't really cut a very good promo.
No, not at all. I understand why the UFC, like I understand why they don't like him for that exact reason. He doesn't really care about any of the promotion stuff. Like he just wants to have the belt and fight, like barely even fight. So honestly, he can leave. I don't care.
That's a bummer though. And the UFC, they were trying to give him John Jones actually before. I think he was probably down for that, but John Jones was like, he's like, nah, dude, I'm fighting Francis. Like, come on, give me my money, UFC.
I think Jones would crush Stipe anyway.
Probably, but
yeah, I don't know.
We'll see. We don't really know what heavyweight John Jones looks like, but I mean,
he's gonna look good.
Probably. He's doing it right too. Like we've seen guys like Alexander Gustafsson go to heavyweight on like a pretty fast turnover from his last fight, where he just kind of packs on some poundage, and it doesn't really look like he's necessarily put on that much muscle. But John Jones he's definitely doing it right. He looks freaking huge. He even said like he's like, I'm not gonna fight until 2022. Like I'm not there physically, right? Which is completely fair. Like you kind of have to pack on at least like 40-50 pounds, which is a lot of freaking weight.
Like you said, like guys like Gus and most guys we see who want to go up to heavyweight, they just put on fat and like fight in a couple months. Like Jones is taking a couple years to actually like transform himself into a proper heavyweight. And like, dude, that fight with him and Francis, oh my goodness, like I can't wait for that, man.
Do you think we ever see that fight though?
Oh, we have to. We absolutely have to. I'm keeping my hopes high.
I don't think we're gonna see it.
Bro, why do you think John Jones is going up? He's literally going up to heavyweight just to fight Francis.
I'm not. I know that John Jones wants to fight. Francis definitely wants to fight too. Like he's gonna line his pockets, right? But I just think I don't think Dana White is gonna pay John Jones what he wants, and I think John Jones is stubborn enough to literally just not take that fight just based on that. And I think Dana White is stubborn enough to not pay him for the fight.
If that fight doesn't happen, oh man.
It's two like massive egos colliding.
It has to happen. I don't care. It has to happen.
I know. It would go down as like one of the biggest tragedies in UFC history, because that's probably the biggest, or at least like a top 3 pay-per-view of all time. How could it not be?
I don't know, because it's not like Conor McGregor type stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure Conor McGregor has the top 3 highest pay-per-views in UFC.
He's the top 3?
Probably.
Jesus.
I wouldn't. I'm just saying.
He has
probably.
number 1 for sure.
Probably 1, 2, and 3. I would not be surprised.
Oh,
because
yeah, he does. I'm pretty sure 1 is him and Nate, and 2 is him and Khabib. So
I'm pretty sure him and Poirier is up there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So, and like, if you're a fan of the sport, you're going to want to see that John Jones fight. Like, if you're an MMA fan, you're going to be watching John Jones, but he doesn't attract, like, people outside of the MMA world like Conor McGregor does. Everybody tunes in to see a Conor McGregor fight.
Yeah.
Only, like, I don't think people who aren't interested in the UFC are really like, oh, my God, we got to see John Jones fight. I don't think he has the superstardom that Conor McGregor brings to the sport, but just for me personally, like, that's the fight I want to see more than anything else, dude, is John Jones versus Francis Ngannou, because in reality, John Jones is the greatest of all time to ever step into the octagon. I know people say like, oh, like Khabib is because he was undefeated, but it's like, whatever, man. John Jones had more freaking title fights than Khabib even had in the UFC. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you could argue John Jones's legacy is kind of tainted by the steroids and stuff.
I don't care about that.
You don't care about that?
No.
I think he probably is too. I mean, it's hard to say. I think if Khabib fought more in the UFC, it might be Khabib, honestly. But I mean, at this point, just the body of work we've seen from John Jones, he probably is number 1. And going back to the being a household name too, I agree with you that McGregor is number 1. But I think I think Dana White's kind of painting a narrative where he's saying like John Jones isn't really a big pay-per-view seller, and I think he is. I think he has to be like top 5. Obviously, he doesn't transcend the sport like only like Conor, Ronda, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anyone else. Those people transcend the sport. John Jones doesn't necessarily, but I still think he's one of the top guys. Like, even if you're not really a big UFC fan, you go, oh, John Bones Jones?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, too, is the UFC doesn't help him out with that. Like, the UFC wanted Conor and Ronda. They wanted to pump them up to that superstar level. Like you said, Dana's literally trying to say that John Jones isn't a huge draw when he's literally... Bro, you should be promoting the hell out of this guy. He's literally the greatest of all time. You could be making so much more money off him than you are just because you don't like the guy.
But like, a bit of it is negotiation tactics too, right? Like Dana White's just trying to kind of paint the narrative where it's like, oh, he's good, but he doesn't sell pay-per-views, which I don't think is true at all. And the other side of the coin too is that, I mean, you can kind of argue this with Conor too, but John Jones, kind of away from the sport, he's had some, let's say, taints to his name. Obviously he got in a collision with like a pregnant woman with like drugs in the car and stuff and ran away. There's the steroid stuff, there's a driving drunk, weapons, and Conor had a bunch of that stuff too. Not as bad obviously, but the thing is for Conor, all that kind of happened once he was already massive. So once he was already massive and he like threw the trolley into the bus. There was a thing where he punched a guy in the bar, but that was mostly after he already came up. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't think that really takes away from like your legacy. I don't know though. I want to see John Jones fight. That's the bottom line, dude. I don't care if he crashed his car or he was high on drugs at one point. Like whatever, man.
Yeah. No, I that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying marketing wise. I mean, it shouldn't really take away from his body of work, right? He's beat the best of the best guys, man. And he's helped grow the UFC immensely, right? So
I think if he goes up into heavyweight and beats Francis Ngannou, he is, like, without a doubt or a question, he is the greatest of all time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I basically already think that, but if he beats Francis, then 100%.
Yeah, no, there's no argument that if he moves up and he can beat Francis Ngannou, yeah, I don't think you can make any argument that he's not the best.
Yeah. So anyway, who do you have? Ciryl Gane, Derrick Lewis?
I've got Ciryl Gane. I think his mobility is really good, and I think that's going to help him just avoid those big shots. He's not really scared of just staying away from the action. You see some guys kind of getting caught up in the crowd. They get booed. They go in and start just trading. They throw caution to the wind. But Ciryl Gane, that hasn't really been the case for him. He had a somewhat lackluster, from the fans' perspective, fight with Jairzinho Rozenstruik, where he was a bit... I mean, they just didn't strike that much. But I think he's really good. And, I mean... Obviously, if he can avoid those big shots, he can get the win. And I think if anyone can avoid those big Derrick Lewis shots, I think it's him.
Okay. Yeah. That being said, Derrick could connect with one of those shots at any point throughout the fight and end it. But I think he is, like, Cyril's probably should be favorited still. He probably has a better chance of winning the fight. But you can never really fully count Derrick out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm interested to see it. We'll see what happens.
I mean, we already know what it is with Derrick Lewis, right? Like, there is never a point in the entire fight where he cannot connect with your jaw and put you to sleep in one punch, right? We saw it with Volkov. We saw it with, who was it recently? Oh, what's his face?
Yeah, the Volkov one. Literally, Volkov was just beating the hell out of him for the whole fight. It's like the last couple seconds of the third round, he just lands one big one and knocks Volkov out.
Yeah, facts. Yeah. We saw it with Curtis Blades too. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I was going into that fight. I was like, man, I'm not at all stoked about this fight. I think it might just be a fight where, I mean, Curtis Blades just kind of takes him down and then tries to just like sit on him for the whole fight, and he caught Curtis Blades coming in and he took him out. So I mean, you're always at risk of getting that right hand from Derrick Lewis.
Yeah, hopefully hopefully we see something interesting happen. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun fight. I mean, losing the Nunes-Pena fight definitely takes away from that card a little bit. That's a little disappointing, but I still think it's a pretty fun card. Yeah. And just to get a nice fun ending to this this episode, we're going to talk about who our top 5 UFC fighters are.
Does it have to be a UFC fighter?
Oh my god, we're going out of the UFC. All right, fine. Let's make it interesting.
I just want to talk. The only one for me is
I know what you're gonna say.
I'm gonna say Dave LeDuc. First of all, man, we're from Canada. How can you not be a Dave LeDuc fan? If you're not a fan of Dave LeDuc, you can't be a fan of any, like, man. First of all, Lethwei is like the most brutal martial art.
Explain to the fans what Lethwei is, for those who don't know.
If you don't know, okay, you got to go check out Dave LeDuc and Lethwei. Lethwei is the art of 9 limbs. That's bare knuckle boxing. You can headbutt, striking, like knees, kicks, whatever, and you can only win by knockout. You have to knock your opponent out to win, and even if they get knocked out, they have like 2 minutes for their team to like wake them up and like get them back in there, and it's absolutely brutal. So go watch some Dave LeDuc fights. Dave LeDuc would probably fucking crush anybody in the UFC, and he's my top #1 fighter. But anyway, going into like the UFC fighters, you want to say my top 5 UFC fighters.
No, you can do top 5 from wherever. So you can go Dave LeDuc as #1.
Well, I don't really watch a lot of I don't watch Bellator that often or like ONE FC. Like
I got you.
All my other, it's just Dave LeDuc is the only guy. Anyway, so UFC. Whew. Oh man, that's such a tough one. Probably John Jones coming in at #1 as I've been saying. Yeah, man. Yeah, John Jones. What?
No, I don't have a problem. I'm just surprised.
Is he not even in your top 5?
I'm talking about favorite fighters though. Oh, I'm not talking about best fighters.
Okay, well, I still like John Jones. He's probably still my favorite fighter, honestly, dude. John Jones. I really like Justin Gaethje. If you're not excited to see a Justin Gaethje fight, like just...
Oh, man, Justin Gaethje against Michael Chandler.
Ooh.
We've been talking about that fight for so long.
That's going to be a banger. That's happening?
It's not signed, but they're negotiating right now.
Okay. Yeah, Justin Gaethje, like him a lot. Damn. I don't know. See, it gets tough for me. There's a lot of fighters that I like. I like TJ. I like, I know you like Brian. I like Brian Ortega a lot. Max Holloway, represent Canada. I like that.
He's not Canadian.
No, but he represents Canada.
I think he has some. Isn't one of his parents Canadian or something?
Something like that. He does a lot of stuff for Canada. I know that. He's like, if you're a Canadian, you should be a Holloway fan. Yeah. What's yours?
So mine are gonna be, I'm like all UFC pretty much. So I'm going Brian T City Ortega in no specific order, dude. T City. I'm gonna go Sugar Sean O'Malley. He's been keeping things really interesting right now. I'm excited to see what's in the future for him. Since you were allowed to say Dave LeDuc, I'm saying Georges St. Pierre.
Yeah, how can you
He's
not?
retired technically, but like, come on, I get to say that. And then I'm gonna go Israel Adesanya.
I like
Stylebender. It's like a Stylebender fight is must watch TV. Obviously, he's really fun to watch. Really interesting personality. I think he's one of the highest IQ fighters in the UFC, if you ask me.
Oh yeah.
And then #5, this is where it gets dicey for me. There's a lot of guys up there that I really like, but honestly, I might have to go with Max Holloway. I really like his attitude. He like takes his losses really well. He takes his losses like he takes his wins. Obviously, he's competitive, but at the same time, he's just seems like a genuinely good guy. And also, I mean, if you ask me, I would say he's probably the best featherweight. Probably, I would say he's the best featherweight fighter on earth.
Yep, I would agree with that. I'm gonna put Jorge Masvidal. I really like Masvidal.
George Masvidal.
Yeah, whatever.
No, I'm just
George.
kidding. That's what
Alright.
what's his face? That's what Colby calls him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's definitely in my top 5.
Street Jesus.
Yeah.
Nice. So you know what he's doing now, eh? So the reason we haven't seen him fight a lot recently is because he actually has his own bare knuckle boxing league now. It's Gamebred FC. So they just put on their first event in July, I believe.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's what he's doing.
Cool.
Also, I saw him on Instagram partying with Steve Aoki last night. I saw that too. But yeah, no, it's cool that he's starting his own like bare knuckle boxing event, and I mean we'll see if that catches on. And yeah, good luck to him.
Awesome.
So we want to know, for the fans, who are your top 5 favorite MMA fighters and why? Hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on Instagram, etc. Have a nice day, guys. Thank you for watching. This has been Beat 'em to the Punch with Air and Jay. Peace.
Peace.